African Democratic Congress has threatened a lawsuit against Anambra State government over its policy that governorship candidates for the November 8 election should pay 50 million naira campaign fee permits. Recall that the Anambra State Signage and Advertising Agency had on Wednesday stated that governorship candidates for the November 8 election must pay 50 million naira campaign permit fee. According to the agency, the advertisement permit will enable the candidates and their political parties to deploy campaign materials such as posters, branded vehicles, among others. ATM reports that Independent National Electoral Commission has cleared 16 contestants, including the incumbent governor, Chukwuma Soludo, for the election. However, ADC in the state argued that the policy was targeted to weaken the opposition political parties. The state chairman of ADC, Patrick Obianyo, who disclosed the party's unhappiness on the directive, told newsmen on Thursday in Oka that they would challenge the action in court. If the state government refused to withdraw the plan, ADC would institute a legal action against it. ADC governorship candidates will not make the payment as it amounts to intimidation, an act of stifling democracy and the oppositions. This is unheard of and unfortunately a policy coming from Sem Soludo, who contested for governor in the year 2021 and never paid such money. How can a political party pay 50 million naira for ordinary t-shirt, cap and pamphlet? We are witnessing this for the first time in Anambra, and one wouldn't know why the governor decided to have himself associated with such policy. This is an indication that Governor Soludo is afraid of oppositions. We never heard of it. We are saying no to such. We are capable of paying, but it is wrong, unconstitutional, and undemocratic, and we are rejecting it, he said. Chizi, what is your take on this position by Anambra State government?
To be candid with you, I will have to take it from two perspectives.
All right.
One is to say that the signage, is when they say it's unconstitutional, I fought that because if you look at the law that establishes the advertising something, you know that you need to pay certain things for you to advertise whatever, and that whatever should have included political campaigns, and of course. We're all from states. You know that just after the campaign, you will see the streets littered with posters and all of that. Who should be cleaning it? It's the government that should be cleaning it. It's just that it's voiced, is the timing that is the problem. Now, when the timing is just close to the election, it looks like it's becoming political. Instead of, it would have been, first, apart from the fact that it's coming as a directive, the agency would have announced this maybe at the inception of the regime of Soludo. Maybe there's a new dawn, trying to awaken people. I've always advocated for certain kind of payments to be able to take care of all of that. Then again, but for it to come this late will mean, for me, that Soludo is also afraid of the opposition. That's why it has to be voiced. Laws are not meant to target a particular person. It should have been any other person. I'm thinking that we should learn to announce laws far ahead of the period. I think that's what is wrong with that. 50 million, of course, but it's to look at the advertising agency and say, what do you have? Look, let me tell you, if you have to put up signboard, for instance, you pay certain money. People have bought spaces, isn't it? Then, of course, those what you see in this part of the world is that you see people putting their posters in the, for instance, flyovers and all of that, public spaces. And then the question would be, who will come to clean it just after that, including even the churches, including religious bodies and all other persons who want to post, including those who are conducting barriers and all of that. We should find a way of sanitizing the place. But this
what this bill is, what this 50 million naira is for, is permits. Let's understand this. The 50 million naira is permit fee. It does not cover the money that you're going to pay. Understand again that these signages
are paid for.
Some of them are private. They are private owned, right? So there are companies that own these signages and they pay the government to, run that business. Now, the 50 million naira permit fee is for government to say, go ahead and put up political posters, do your pamphlets, do your t-shirt. It didn't say that you have to pay the 50 million naira and then the government takes care of these things. It's just like paying for a license to operate. Yes. Why would they have to pay 50 million naira?
Now, let me even ask you, you were saying,
and why is it coming at this? What you've talked about timing
yes.
Well.
Now, let me say this. You just talked about private ownership of the boards. Now, if you have to take over from government, I have been in advertising. We have what we call voters communication. We do it, right? It means that you have to take permission from government and pay government certain money. That's why you are already in the first instance. You are paying for the space, and then government has some conditions at which you must meet. So you now go and lease it out to people who will use those your space, isn't it? But what about the t-shirts? You see, you're advertising something. That's why I said it's just the timing that's a problem. You're advertising something, you're advertising...
So probably if you're saying that, Cheesy, that they have to pay for permits to run their campaigns, probably...
Not to run, to advertise.
Probably, no, running of campaign, probably to print the t-shirts and the face caps. Then one would say it is also okay for people who are probably doing burials to also pay to have the picture of their loved ones who passed on these t-shirts. So probably we should also pay for NGOs who wear their logo across their t-shirts and face caps. We should also pay, Nigerian Labour Congress should be paying for having NLC printed on face caps. Now let's break it down to the nitty-gritty. Why is he singling out the political class when it is time for politics? Is he trying to stifle some people? Because there are mushroom political parties, of course, but then it is what it is. There are still political parties that are still struggling and cannot cough out that money. Is that a way of using government policy to simply kill them and take them out of the game?
You know what you have done? You have technically reduced it to just the t-shirts and caps, and you've forgotten the posters that are littered on the street. You've forgotten.
No, you talked about the
I am just talking. I'm being generic in advertisement.
It's campaign.
Yes, it's campaign. Campaign is advertisement. You know, we looked at. It's just that we find ourselves in a society where people can just generate noise and do whatever without paying for it. That's why you can see churches or religious bodies or whatever they will hang up their speakers and begin to make loud noises. And then you see cars parked along the road because we do not have laws that check those things. If we have laws that check those things, you see that those things begin to be reduced for people. I mean, the question will be, if 30 of us are here and we're conducting fellowship as in the church, and then we can hear ourselves, why are you putting the mic outside? So if someone has said, okay, there's a law that will stop you from making sound, and if you have to do that, then you have to pay. And of course, that would have been the law within the signage. But the problem we have is, there are laws that are there. Those laws are just in there, and people want to lift it at a time where they would feel that that law should be used against certain persons. Now, you've talked about political parties not having 50 million naira. I don't agree with the fee. I mean, as in 50 million naira. I also would want to tell you that the law also says that there's a maximum amount of money that a gubernatorial candidate can spend. You know, we have that as law. Then again, I'm a politician, I'm a practical politician. Anybody who is contesting an election as governor who cannot cough out 50 million for something is not yet ready to. The man just wanted to buy form and wait for those who will pay him out. I can tell you that because this is not about bribing. Let me use the River State here as an instance. We have 319 wards, for instance, and then we have about 7,000 something units in River State. And so a political party must mobilize their party agents to all of the units. And if you have to mobilize, and then assuming, and then again not conceding, that all the thing you need to pay them is 10,000 naira per agent for those years. Because you have to pay them something for them to survive. And then you have to pay them, then you're talking about 70 million naira. That's why if you are not serious in contesting, don't come and contest. If you don't have, there are certain things that you need to have. But I can tell you that this policy, even if it was there, is coming very late. It's coming as like a tool trying to deal with certain persons.
Isn't that what it is?
I mean, that's what it is because of the timing. I have just said here that if these policies were done earlier on, For instance, not even within the political time to say that, oh, this is a new thing you announce. Because if you have a law, you need to announce the law. You need to announce what people need to be paying for, including even the burial. I frown at a certain way we conduct burials. I frown at it. Because certain things are things we can do without. And so if you have to pay, and the question I'll ask is, who will begin to clean up those rubbish you are going to? The fact that somebody cleans this place does not mean that you have to come and put up debt on it. So who will clean it? The money is big. I don't subscribe to it. But there, for instance, if you have everywhere, and I can tell you that political period generates the highest debt. You know, posters, hampies, and all of that. They generate the highest, and so the state will have to clean it. I am not making up the state, but I can tell you that that policy is coming in a very wrong time. But for them to say it's unconstitutional, if the advertising agency, if the signal agency is there, all you need to know is whether that involves, what is it, to make sure that those who advertise for something, there are freelance advertising agencies or who advertise certain things. For those who are, right, that's why you're going to pay for the billboard in the first instance, because somebody is paying for it. Now you have your t-shirts. Of course, that is not why buying even the t-shirts and all of that. You would have paid certain tax. But for those posters they are going to be putting on public spaces, it's just that it was not, apart from even the timing, it was not defined within what should be accepted. People do not know how to communicate or have not communicated well. But like
they did not call it. Let's clarify something.
That's why I said they did not communicate it well.
Hold on. This 50 million naira is not advertisement fee. They called it campaign permit.
Now let me tell you something.
They called it campaign.
If the word they use is campaign permit fee,
yes,
the state does not have rights for that in the first instance, because it's not the state. It's INEC that should be talking about that. It's INEC, so it's not the state. So the state cannot talk about campaign permit. But when the state, when they brought in the signage agency, that's why I reduced it to that. When they brought in the signage agency, and I looked at it vis-a-vis the duties of the signage agencies. What are their duties? That's what we need to look at. What are their duties? Their duties is to give permit to advertising and all of that. And so if you
the people that run the signage companies pay their fees, their levies, and all whatnot to these agencies.
That's what
so simply you have, let's say for example, you are a private owned businessman, and you own a signage company, right? And you have paid the government all that is required for you to operate that business.
That's true.
Now, I don't have business directly with the government. My dealing is with you. So if you are operating, it means that the government has given you the powers to operate that business. And it is based on that recognition by the government that I will now meet you to, you give me your bill, I pay, and whenever you're giving me bill, remember that the VAT is also included in it. So I still pay government VAT
directly,
for that particular signage. Now, make it make sense to me how the government will now jump you and now meet me, the consumer, and say, okay, apart from the monies I'm paying you to use your signage, I will have to pay them in order to use your signage as well.
Now,
I'm trying to make it make sense.
That's what I'm saying now.
And now this is not, it's no longer about advertisement, but it is purely political, because they called it campaign permit.
Now, you know,
campaign permit fee.
Lauricia, you know, what we have done, you know, both the government and those who are criticizing it or who are picking it on it, is the fact that we have reduced first the whole of this state into political campaign. And if it is political campaign, I differ from the government. I can tell the government that you don't even have rights, INEC, because as long as that election is concerned now, INEC is the umpire. INEC is the chief executive of that campaign.
And INEC also pays some money to political parties.
That's what I'm saying.
Isn't it?
No, INEC is the umpire. That's what I'm saying now. No, INEC for this period, INEC no longer pay money.
Okay, they've stopped.
Yeah, they stop paying money. That's why you see people are no longer. That's why if
They're not having random candidates
from everywhere, so we understand that. So, but I just wanted to pick that aside. But if you reduce it to political campaign, they do not have right to say this is why you will have to, because in the first instance, if you have paid INEC candidate's fee and you have registered with INEC, you have already paid for the campaign permit. And as soon as INEC has published your name to campaign, you have right to campaign. But the state also have what we call the residual right. That right is a right to that. No wonder the state will say, do not campaign in public spaces like primary schools and secondary schools. Isn't it? Now, we also have in those advertising fees, you would have paid for, of course, you go for the strategies, you go to television, for instance, and then you pay, you also directly or indirectly paying the government for advertising. But how about the posters? How about is there anybody that handles those posters? That's what the signage agency does. Are there people who handles private billboards in houses that are not covered by those private agencies? Are there people who do that? Yes. I run an NGO and I know that when we put up billboard, in our listing, the agency came and we had a discussion. There is a variation they give to NGOs, and we did that. We paid for it. And so, what about those posters? That's why I said the communication itself was wrong, because the intentions were impure. No wonder the communication. I'm just trying to even teach them where they would have gone. Because the communication is impure, to say that this is why you need to for your campaign permit. I mean, who gives them campaign permit? No, nobody. The INEC is the only people legally to say you have right to campaign, and the day you stop your campaign, and the day you shouldn't stop your campaign.
But the government can streamline how it should be.
The government can say,
in order not to give rise to chaos.
Say, look, even on how it should be, if it's on where you should go, will be the security agencies.
Okay.
Because they are a integral part of this. So it is not you. That's why you are supposed to take your timetable or your campaign program to the security agencies. Why are they doing that? So that there won't be a clash between venues and all of that. It is not government. It is not government. Right. But government has a right to say, don't campaign in the primary schools.
In so and so facilities.
So facilities, because it's facilities owned by. That's also, again, if also the government is also not campaigning on those.
And probably the government should have waited for them to lease this place and then probably put their prices on it. But coming out to say every governorship candidate, it's also very important to note. Now, the bill is for the governorship candidates, right? Governorship candidates will have to pay 50 million naira campaign permit fee. And on one hand, Nigerians are crying that politics has become attractive and lucrative because it's meant to be, it's seen as an investment.
Yeah, sure.
Because when an individual coughs out 50 million naira just to get a fee from the government, just to get permits from the government to campaign. Like, if you're looking at this, is this not even an infringement on their rights to run elections and be voted for? Because, I mean, as a Nigerian, you should be able to aspire for political office, and you should be able to campaign and be voted for. So, if the government is now putting a lien on that fundamental right you have as a Nigerian, I mean, what do we make of that? Because I'm now looking at it from the legal angle as well.
No, you see, some of us have had to speak loudly against certain fees, including even the party nomination forms. I'm saying that you can't be telling us you are going to fight corruption on one hand, and now you are forcing the person to spend more. For instance, you see political parties that collect as far as
250 million.
250 million. For. So what are you telling the person?
Just for a form.
For a form, and then you know that ideally, if you calculate the salaries or the allowance the person will take for 4 years, it will be up to that 250 million. So you are certainly telling the person that the person should go and stay. We know that. We know that. But where I am saying this is, firstly, I quarrel the timing. Secondly, I quarrel the amount. It's too huge. Like the ADC said, it's not as if they can't pay, but of course they are speaking out. But the amount is also too huge. What are you telling the people? What are the social responsibilities that you have as government? But you can tell them, please, get it in. And like I said, you would have done it earlier enough, to the extent that even the House of Assembly might put a law on it to say that if you want to campaign or if you want to do this better, you want to do this, you have to pay certain things because of, and define it.
Why it should be
Why
done.
it should be that way.
And let it be argued.
And let it be, and again, people should also see a traceable implementation on such sanitation that you are, this place is very clean. Look, by the time that this campaign starts, if you have 16 candidates, assuming in one space you're going to have 16 posters in every spot, you will be sure that the entire state will be filled with posters. And just after that, those posters will going to be winning down, and it's going to constitute debt, and it's going to deface the aesthetics of the state. So you will have to explain that we can't stop you from doing this, but this is what we can do. For instance, after the then governor, the former governor of Rivers State, built the flyovers, and there were some painting like blue and white representing Rivers State, color. But just after the election, you saw that when they begin to pull out those things, the whole thing was defaced. So the government had to repent again after 1 year. So somehow you have to bring up a bill into that to say this is what we need to do, and
this is the reason why.
This is the reason why we need. That's why communication. Lorisha, I thought that Anambra State would have come to ask you to come and communicate those. You know what people don't understand about communication. You guys at the 40th state are the most dangerous people and the best people you can have. I use the word dangerous because you can sell what is unsellable.
Really?
Sure, very well. You can sell what is unsellable. And then you can also demarcate that which is sellable. So the government will need to wake up on the stand on its toes to be able to do that. Before, look at communication. For instance, if you say somebody would have meant that, I'm not saying that they should be lying. I don't support lying, but I would have meant political and communicate it the other way, professional. To say, oh, look at what is happening. We can't afford to do that, and I can't stop people from putting their posters. I can't stop people from doing their jingles. I can't stop people from littering this thing because, of course, it comes with a whole lot of crowd. Places must be littered, but we need to be cleaning it. We need to, and I can't call those political parties to come clean it. So can't we do it this way, this way, this way, this way? If those things were communicated ab initio, even the argument of these people would have been weakened by now. Do you understand? It would have been weakened. People will see, oh, look at, I could do a video, of before campaign and after campaign.
Is the governor scared of opposition?
No, of course, it is scared of opposition. Of course.
Well, because one would wonder, doing this.
How could Solido fight? I'm not insulting Anambra. How could Solido fight native daughter in Anambra, that is the hope of native daughter, and not be scared of election? So you should know that.
Well, we'll take that as an aside.